Hello and welcome to Ethan's Guitar Room. My name is Ethan. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, welcome. I hope you enjoy it. And if you do, please consider subscribing. My channel is still pretty small and I have a goal of reaching 3,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I will need your help to get there. You can probably tell from the thumbnail or title of this video that this is going to be another story time, and this one is all about the guy who might be the most important person in guitar history. And that is Leo Fender. He was a busy guy for his entire life, so there's a whole lot to his story that I just don't have time for. So I'm going to try to get the highlights up to his biggest contributions to the guitar world. Let's get into it. So Leo's name is actually Clarence Leonidas Fender. He was born in 1909 in a barn on his family's farm in Orange County, California. When he was 8 years old, he developed a tumor and his left eye was replaced with a glass eye, which prevented him from being drafted into World War II, which is why it's important to this story. A lot of this stuff takes place in that time frame. When he was just a kid, he started learning to play piano, and he didn't stick with that very long, switched to saxophone, and he didn't stick with that very long because he became more interested in electronics and like radio stuff. He was never really serious about learning music, and he, in fact, never learned to play guitar. And even though he was interested in electronics, he went to college for accounting. So he finished school and then went to work as a bookkeeper for an ice company, the California Highway Department, and a tire company. Other crazy things are happening in the world, and he ends up losing his accounting job during the Great Depression. But he used that opportunity to open up a radio repair store in Fullerton, California. And through this company, he would assemble PA systems that he would hire out to sporting events or dances. And by doing all of this, he ended up meeting a handful of musicians. One of them was a guy by the name of Clayton or Kauffmann, and he is better known as Doc Kauffmann. Quick side story about him. It was common back then for inventors and tinkerers to be called Doc, just like Doc Brown, who invented the flux capacitor and time machine. Those are my favorite documentaries. But that's not how Doc Kauffmann got his name. Clayton Kauffmann was a piano tuner, and one day he showed up to a house to tune a piano. They opened the door, let him in, and escorted him through the house to a room. There was no piano. There was a woman having a baby. When they saw the bag in his hand, the family just assumed he was the doctor, so they let him in. So now he's known as Doc Kauffmann. Okay, back to Leo. So Leo Fender and Doc Kauffmann began building instruments. They would make electric lap steels and amps to go with them, and they would do that work in the back of Leo's radio shop after hours when they were both not focused on their day jobs. By 1943, they had built a solid body electric guitar, but kind of didn't do anything with it. They rented it out to some local musicians, but they still stayed focused on the lap steels. They decided to set up a business as K&F in 1945, but Doc Kauffmann wasn't very confident in the guitar industry, and being fresh out of the Depression, he wanted to be in a job that he knew would be financially stable. So he asked Leo to buy him out, and he left the company in early 1946. The business struggled for a little bit, but Leo revised everything and renamed the company Fender Manufacturing, and he later changed it again to Fender Electric Instrument Company. Leo kept building lap steels and amps. That's what he was into. So he hired a few employees and came up with a few new designs, and unlike Doc Kauffmann, he was confident in the guitar industry, so he sold his radio shop in 1949 and set up the instrument company in Fullerton. But he starts to notice that the customer base for lap steels is kind of going away because the general public had a taste for new music, so that's what musicians were into. He decided he needed to design an electric Spanish guitar. The Spanish guitar basically is just the guitar you're familiar with already, like the ones behind me. So in 1949, he started prototyping his first design. And a trivia question for you. Do you know what he named that first prototype? If you said Broadcaster, you're wrong. Leo's first design was the Esquire. And this was built with an ash body and a maple neck, and it was only offered in the iconic blonde color. Fewer than 50 of them were sold, and most of those had to be replaced under warranty because there was no truss rod in the neck. The original price in 1950 was $139.95, and that's equal to around $1,700 today. So that's pretty much on par with the American-made Fender guitars today. Leo took the design of the Esquire, he made a few changes, added a second pickup at the neck, and added a truss rod, and this is the one that he called the Broadcaster. So late 1950, Broadcaster goes into production, and early on in 1951, Gretsch brought legal action against Fender for using the name Broadcaster because they were already using it for a line of drums, but they spelled it with a K. So Leo had his employees take their stack of decals that they already had made up saying Fender and Broadcaster, and they just snipped off the Broadcaster part. So they put the Fender decal on the headstock and just left where they had the model name empty. And it was around 9 months later that he settled on a new name and launched the Telecaster, which is the exact same guitar, just had a new name. But that left 9 months of guitars with no name. So those have become known as no-casters, and they're somewhat easy to identify because they don't have the model name. And Leo was happy with the Telecaster. That was exactly what he wanted a guitar to be. Simple, easy to build, nothing fancy, but it would deliver what the player wanted. It is still produced to this day, following the same basic design with just minor changes, and it was the first commercially successful solid body electric guitar. But Leo wasn't done. He followed up with a bass guitar. I love a Tele, but his bass design is probably his greatest invention. To understand why I say that, we have to go back in time again and talk about the bass. In the early 1930s, everybody was playing acoustic instruments. And brass instruments like trumpets or drums are way louder than an acoustic guitar or an acoustic bass. Because of that, people were trying to amplify the guitar. Before Leo's Esquire, lap steels were fitted with pickups so they could be plugged into an amp, and there were hollow body guitars fitted with pickups. A few people tried to electrify the bass, and there was even an early solid body bass design, but they weren't successful. So all the instruments are getting louder except for the bass, and it was getting buried behind all the sound from the other instruments. I've been showing you some pictures of Leo throughout, and one thing to notice with this guy, and you'll see it in all the pictures that I show you, from what I could tell, doing my research, seeing a bunch of pictures of him, Leo Fender was always wearing a shirt. You should be like Leo and wear clothes as well, and I can help you out with that. One of the ways that you can support my channel is by going to ethansguitarroom.com, and I have designed a bunch of merch, some that reference my YouTube channel and a lot that doesn't. And you actually don't even need to leave YouTube to check out some of the stuff. I'll have some linked to this video that should be down below in the description, but you can also click over to my channel and there is a store tab that has a bunch of items. There's a store tab that has a bunch of items. If you click on one of those, that should just take you right over to my website. So all I'm saying is be like Leo, wear a shirt. All right, back to his inventions. If you look at the guitar, it went through a lot of iterations from being an acoustic guitar to being a solid body electric guitar. And ultimately that was the goal because the hollow bodies just are more prone to feedbacks. So you wouldn't be able to play with any amount of gain like we do today because we have these solid body electric guitars. So we start with acoustic. I did a video before about resonator guitars. You can check that out, but that was made to be louder. And then you have the hollow body guitars with a pickup. And then you have lap steels that were solid slabs, but they were played with a slide on your lap. It's not the same as a Spanish guitar. So Leo took that, figured out how to make it into a Spanish style guitar, and that's how we got the Broadcaster. With the bass, there is no in between. So you have the double bass that stands 6.5 feet tall. It's acoustic, fretless. It's a behemoth of an instrument to have to move around. And in one step, Leo went from that to a solid body electric 34-inch scale length instrument that you could hang on your shoulder with a strap. and it had frets. Unlike an upright bass that would take years of training, the fretted neck on Leo's bass allowed anybody to easily play a precise note in tune with the rest of the band. And that is why Leo named this design the Precision Bass, and it's still being made today, just like the Telecaster, with only minor changes. Like I said earlier, I think this is his greatest invention, because it didn't just change for people playing the bass. Now the bass is giving you a sharper attack and a brighter tone, which helps it be heard with the rest of the band. The bass guitar, the lap steel, the solid body electric guitar can all be plugged into amps and cranked to 11. The days of brass instruments and drums drowning them out are over. Oh yeah, and Leo still didn't know how to play guitar. And not only is the Precision Bass still being made, every other electric bass you've ever seen had to take some ideas from Leo Fender. This is as far as I went with Leo's story for today, because I don't want this video to get too long. But if you'd like to hear the rest of it, let me know and I will do a part 2. But he was involved with a lot more past this. You have the rest of Fender's history. He was involved with Music Man, G&L Guitars. He actually built a prototype guitar on the day he died. So he was always working on making something better. And I didn't even talk about amps that are also part of Leo's story. I found this quote from Leo that, after reading about him for quite a while, I thought was very fitting in describing how he worked and designed pretty much everything he ever designed. Leo would say, "If I have $100 to make something, I'll spend 99 making it work and $1 making it pretty." And if you look at the Telecaster, it's exactly that. Thank you for watching this one, especially if you made it all the way to the end. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like this video. Go check out my store, and I'll see you in the next one.